afternoon. This is U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I'm here live to take your U.S. immigration related questions. Put your questions in the comments now so that when I'm finished talking about the topic that I came to talk about, I can get straight into your questions. Now, I have a good topic for you, and I'm going to talk about because I get this question often. What proof, what if I don't have proof of the mistreatment or the abuse that happened um, in order to support the VAWA application or the T visa application? And here's my response to you here. um, while yes, you do need proof, what you do need, the way that they accept evidence at the immigration service is by accepting any credible evidence. Any credible evidence qualifies here for VAWA and also for the T visa. Just as a recap for those of you who are joining, what's VAWA? What's the T visa? What are you talking about? All right, so the T visa is for victims of trafficking, and victims of trafficking may include an individual. I like to put it in summary like this. If you were in a situation where you felt forced to be stay stuck in a uh, job or somebody's home or in a relationship, because that person, there's an employer or the person that you're in the relationship with or the friend or the person that brought you into their home, um, because of actions on their part. So they may not do, say straight up you can't leave, but they may do things to sabotage your ability to leave the situation. They may, for example, they may pay you so low that you couldn't leave if you wanted to because you can't find an alternative place to stay with such low wages that you're receiving. Or they may constantly remind you that you have nowhere to go, or that they may scare you and say, hey, if you leave my home or you leave this job, you are gonna be deported because or arrested. So it's best you stay where you are. And those are the types of tactics that the individual uses. Individual, which means an employer. It's a friend that maybe brought you here to live with them or to do things for them. Maybe they brought you here under, saying, promising you to get you work, promising you to put you in school, or promising to get your green card. It may be an intimate partner who, say, brought you here with the promise of marriage, or some other type of promise that brought you here. And by the way, it doesn't have to be a situation where you are outside of the US and you came in. You could have already been here, and it could have started when you were already here. But the point is that if you're in a situation where this person, this individual, created a situation that you could not freely leave because of various things they were doing, this could this could qualify you for the T visa. It's very much fact based, right? And this is where it's very important to schedule an appointment so that we can talk about what the facts were involved in your case, and see if you qualify for the T status. So and keep in mind, trafficking comes in different forms. So the T visa is for victims of trafficking, and it comes in different forms. Trafficking isn't just being kidnapped and chained down somewhere in a basement and forced to do things against your will. You have people who are here in this country who are victims of trafficking that have never been restrained physically, have not even been threatened, really, who still qualify for the T status. So this is where it's very important to make sure you take the steps to see if you could qualify for this type of relief. Now, VAWA is for victims. VAWA is for individuals who are being mistreated by a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident spouse, a parent, or an adult U.S. citizen child who's age 21 and up. If you're in a situation where they're refusing to file your papers, even if it has nothing to do with papers, they are just mistreating you to the point where you feel they're being cruel to you, this is where you can explore the option of VAWA. VAWA, both VAWA and the T visa lead to permanent resident eventually. With VAWA, you are able to apply for the work permit while you wait, and for the T status, you are issued a work permit, a 4-year work permit upon approval, and then you're able to pursue permanent residence after the approval. So both are very valuable forms of relief that not a lot of people know is available. And so this is why I come on here and I talk about these forms of relief, because it made a difference for my clients' lives, and I want to continue to make that difference. And I know you're out there, you're listening, and you're in the very same situation that I've mentioned here. So now that I've given you a recap about what the T visa is, what the VAWA is, and what the benefits are of getting this form of relief, my next thing is to usually the next question I get or the next statement I get is, well, I don't have any proof that this happened to me. And this is what I'm going to say to you. Yes, you do. You just don't know it. The evidence you have is your memory, what you remember. This is where I say, if this is happening to you, document like crazy, but and also write down incidents that happen to you so you don't forget it, because that is going to get you the VAWA, that's going to get you the T status, that leads to the evidence. Why? How is that? How does your memory can be transferred onto paper in the form of a statement, right? And we call it declaration. And this is the most important piece of evidence that is submitted with the T visa application and also the VAWA application. Of course, the varying types of evidence is going to differ based on what the situation is. But one thing, I never submit a VAWA application or a T visa application without my client's detailed declaration, their statement, as long as it's credible. So this is where the immigration officer is going to evaluate your statement. This is why it has to be drafted coherently in sufficient detail so that the officer can look at the facts here and understand that this really happened to you, because it is credible. That's the standard that they use. The officer looks for credible evidence, and that means any believable evidence. So you there is no such situation for the T visa or the VAWA where you don't have proof. You have the proof, it's your memory, and we help our clients to submit the evidence to get this status. Now, another tip here though is, if you're going through this or you've recently gone through any kind of mistreatment, either by a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident spouse, parent, or an adult citizen child, or if you've experienced abuse or mistreatment by anyone, document it. So many times I've spoken to people that said, oh my gosh, I have a text message where this person was threatening to get me deported, but I just wanted to forget it. I just wanted to forget what happened, so I deleted it. Or they would say they changed phones. If you're going to change phones, make sure you screenshot it, email it to yourself or download the messages so that you have it in a safe place so you can show threats or abusive language that was sent to you, or if you have recordings, make sure you save those recordings. If you have pictures or video, if you can take pictures and video of any damage to your property, injuries to yourself, document everything. But in the case that you don't have these, it's okay. We can still move forward with your detailed statement, which will be presented as evidence. So don't, this is where it's so important to invest in a consultation. Don't count yourself out until you can speak to an attorney about your case, and the attorney can advise on what approach you should be taking. All right. So now that I've said my piece here, and I've given you some information, I'm going to go ahead and answer some questions. So I'm going to be scrolling through very quickly to make sure I get through to all of your questions. I'm going to try to get through as many as possible today. So put those questions in the comments. How can an Italian get a work permit? So you'll have to qualify like and everybody else. You'd have to, and this is where scheduling an appointment is going to be crucial, because in the appointments, what I do is I ask very specific questions, and those questions are geared towards determining whether an option is available for you to qualify for the work permit and status here. And there's so many ways that you could qualify, but it's going to depend on your facts and circumstances. I am a student and I want to get married to a US citizen. My driver's license is different from my spouse's own. We are not living together because I'm in school. So, in these marriage based cases where you're not living together for temporary reasons because you're going to school, you want to document that, and you want to be able to be ready to explain that in the interview, and also to explain that in the documentation that's submitted with the evidence, to explain that you and your spouse, when you plan to move in together, or how you're living your life together as your spouse right now, and how you plan to come together in the future after school, after you graduate. It's very important to just document that. After I've been denied my application, can I change to something else? It depends on what denial happened, what was the reason for the denial, like how much do these processes take. So I don't provide attorney quotes until I can understand what process you're going to be going through and whether you qualify for those processes, and then also the facts involved and the steps that we have to take, because the steps that we have to take is going to differ based on different situations and circumstances. So, what I would say is invest in the consultation first. This is where I'm not throwing this quote at you until I fully understand your case. I can advise you. So, you're still getting legal advice in the consultation, and then you know how to move forward, and what the total costs will be. I do charge flat fees to make it more predictable and more manageable for my clients. Like how much does the cost for your fees? So I just explained that. How can you help me get a work permit? Schedule the consultation, and we can do an evaluation first, because you have to qualify. So the two case types that I just talked about today, VAWA and the T visa, they do lead to the work permit. But we have to first evaluate whether you qualify. This Getting the work permit is not about calling me up and saying, "Hey, draft up the paperwork." We have to figure out whether you qualify for a benefit or a relief that leads to the work permit. I'm currently dealing with this type of situation. What's the first step to take? Call, schedule an appointment. Let's talk in detail and then we can get started on your case. We get straight to work for our clients to get this filed. If your wife doesn't want to help you renew your green card, what steps to take? So, I don't know any spouse who is going to look out for the best interest of their immigrant spouse and refuse to apply for their green card. This indicates that there is some form of mistreatment or extreme cruelty that's happening here. The first thing you should do is there is a solution. Now, it sounds like you're going from the 2-year green card to the 10-year green card. And in that case, you do need your spouse. However, the immigration law has created alternatives if the spouse refuses to be involved or can't be involved. So you can apply for a waiver, and the waiver would allow you to move forward without the spouse involved. Now, there are a number of waivers. One is based on divorce and showing that your marriage is bona fide. Two is based on extreme cruelty or mistreatment and your marriage is bona fide. Three is based on extreme hardship, if you had to leave the country and lose your status. And then there's also a fourth based on the death of your spouse, which is outside of your control. So you have to show that your spouse passed away in order to get that waiver to move forward. Uh, so those are the four types of waivers, and I do assist my clients to move forward in regards to getting the 10-year, but it's going to depend on what your current situation is. Okay, so I was denied in December 2022, and my husband is in jail because of his ex-girlfriend. And when we went for our interview, I was asked if he was mistreating me, and I said no. What can I do? What can I change? So this is more complex just because it's so specific. And then remember that I'm not giving personalized legal advice. Now, in this case where you were denied, it probably was based on a lack of bona fides, it sounds like. Or it may be because your spouse is in jail. I don't know if your spouse was not able to make it to the interview. But if your spouse is mistreating you, then you would have to file a VAWA petition. But I'd have to understand what happened. Yes, you said they were not mistreating you, but as the victim here who is going through mistreatment, sometimes you're not willing to face up to that, when asked at first. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't move forward with a VAWA, but I need to understand your case fully to understand what happened. Did he make it to the interview? Did he not make it to the interview? What basis were you denied on? Why did the officer ask if you're being mistreated, and so forth? And then I can address a solution here. So how long after the form is filed is your um, okay, so if you've produced all that's requested, how long, I guess, does it take from there? It depends on what they ask for. Can asylum seeker travel to another state with port of entry documents using flight? So I have seen asylum seekers travel within the United States with no problem, but whether it's advisable for you is going to depend on what the situation is. Now, keep in mind, I'm going to go from platform to platform. I'm on Instagram, I'm on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. I'm also on TikTok. So you can put your questions in the comments. I'm taking time, I'm scrolling through. and I'm scrolling through each question. So just go ahead and um, hang tight, put your questions in, and wait for me to join to answer your questions. All right. What form can I file if I'm staying with a family that threatened to have me deported after saying they'd get me a green card? Okay, so this is an important one. And for this one, it could very well lead to T status. This is exactly what I'm talking about here. So if you have been um, if you have been subjected to threats like this, where you're staying with a family and the family is threatening now to get you deported if you leave, or if you don't do what they say, that does lead to the T status. Um, all right. So I'm on YouTube here now. So put your questions in the comments. So if you have a tourist visa valid for another 4 years and you visit your family, in the US, can you apply for the work permit and stay in the US while waiting on the work permit? Now, keep in mind that you may have a visa that's valid for 4 years. It doesn't mean you get to stay in the US for 4 years. Every time you enter, you're usually given a maximum of 6 years. So I think sometimes people get confused about that, and it can get you into trouble. So you cannot overstay that 6 months, and you have to qualify. You can't just come here on a tourist visa and apply for the work permit. I wish it was that easy. It's not. And if it was, you can imagine so many people would be getting their work permits here while they're visiting. You're not even supposed to be working when you're visiting. So, the way my clients do qualify is they qualify if they have certain circumstances that um, makes them qualified for adjustment of status, for the T, for VAWA, for asylum, for deferred action. Can I request for a fee waiver for my I-130 because of disability? So I-130 doesn't allow for the fee waiver. So, can we speak to you personally during the consultation, not a caseworker? Though they're great, but I would prefer a lawyer. So we don't do caseworkers here at this law firm. You do your consultation directly with me. So you'll have that consultation with me. My schedule is filling up though, and so this is where it's very important to schedule the appointment because it's filling up, and I want to make sure I can speak to you. My U.S. citizen daughter filed for me in March. I received an RFE for my medical and pay stub from my sponsor. I'll be mailing them this weekend. I haven't received my EAD and advance parole. Who knows? You might be getting your green card before your EAD. And then also, I just saw someone congratulate me here. Congratulations on your approvals you shared with us yesterday. Yes, thank you so much. We yesterday we got a green card for our client, no interview, and got the green card 8 months after filing. And then also VAWA, the VAWA petition was approved. And in this case, the VAWA petition was approved with my client's statement, detailed declaration about the mistreatment, and also evidence of bona fides. Now my client is going to be able to go on automatically to get the green card. So we're very happy about that. And I'm looking forward to assisting you all with yours. But the first thing you have to do is schedule the appointment, schedule the consultation so we can talk. All right. So now I'm on TikTok. and I'm going to go ahead and answer questions on TikTok. So put your questions in the comments, and I'm going to quickly go through and answer some questions, and then we'll call it a day. But I'm aiming to be back tomorrow at lunchtime and Friday at lunchtime. So if I don't get to your questions, there is always tomorrow. Can you marry someone who has a police record? Yes, but you have to understand how that police record may affect the petitioner. For example, if the crime that they committed involved a child, then it could very well stop you from getting your green card. How can I apply for a work permit while my I-130 is pending? I-130 does not get you the work permit. It's the adjustment of status that does. Um, What if my spouse can't find their birth paper? What to do next? So if they have their passport as proof of citizenship, that can serve as evidence of their citizenship, or they need to reorder that, and it depends on what state they're from. Can you get VAWA app and work permit without doing biometrics? On if they have your fingerprints, they may waive the biometrics, but in most cases they're going to schedule the biometrics. What if my spouse refused to file unless I have a child? Can I file VAWA? That definitely is a form of emotional abuse. Nobody should be forcing you to have a child first before they apply for your papers. That is emotional blackmail. And so yes, that would qualify for VAWA, but I'd have to understand the full circumstances to confirm. Because remember, the information here is not personalized legal advice, it's general information. What if I file it and it says the USCIS website is taking longer than usual to process? It means there's a delay in the processing. What if my spouse refused to file? So I answered that. Can you marry someone who has a police record? I answered that. Yes, but sometimes the record can affect the petitioner and ban them from applying if the record shows that the crime involved a child. So this is under the Adam Walsh Act. Do you work with a T visa? Yes, that is one of my focus areas, and we've changed many of our clients' lives by getting them the T visa. So, absolutely, give me a call. What if my spouse refused to file unless I have a child? So, I answered that absolutely nobody should be blackmailing you to have a child. Filed VAWA in 2021, got combo card for prima facie. How long for a decision? So it's taking 2 to 2.5 years to get a decision. What if my spouse, I answered that. Can I adjust my status while my VAWA is still pending? It depends. So usually yes, but if your priority date isn't current, then you'll have to wait until that's current to file your adjustment. For example, if you're the spouse of a permanent resident, that you're going to have to wait until your priority date is current. If you are the child and you're over 21 and you've applied for VAWA because you meet some exception, then you also have to wait for your priority date to become current. Does substance abuse from spouse um, well, substance abuse is not going to stop your spouse from petitioning for you, but it can get in the way of their focus, as in they could be so sidetracked from addiction that they don't cooperate with you through the process. So you have to be very careful about that. What if my spouse refused to file unless I have a child? So again, nobody should be doing that. That sounds like a VAWA case. I-751 conditional green card approval rating. So it's going to depend on your case. And it's so you can't go by, oh, if it's 90% approval rating, that means I'll definitely get through. You have to look at what is your situation. What's the consultation fee? It's $150 for half an hour. And we do get into detail here to determine what all your possible options are. I got approved for the T visa 2 years now. Can I file? Yes, there is an early adjustment of status process, but it requires some steps. Give us a call. Let's talk about those steps. I want to find out what was involved in your T visa case, and then we can help you to get adjustment of status. So yes, T. Now that's another benefit here. T visa recipients can move on to get permanent residence. In general, after 3 years. However, after 3 years of having the T visa, you can get your permanent residence, your adjustment of status. However, there is a way to apply early, and that it's a whole other set of steps, but it is possible. All right, that's going to be it for me today. Thanks everyone for your time. I'll be back tomorrow at lunchtime. So please go ahead and mark your times, your dates tomorrow, and then think of your questions. And I'll come on tomorrow and we'll talk about those questions tomorrow and any additional topics I have. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Bye bye.